I thought I was about to get dumped on the best date of my life. Let me back up. Her name was Sarah, and we'd been messaging for 3 weeks before we finally met in person. 3 weeks of late-night texts and voice notes that made me smile like an idiot on my lunch breaks. She worked as a nurse at County General, had this laugh that came through even in her messages, and sent me a photo once of her attempting to make homemade pizza that looked like a crime scene. I was hooked before we ever sat across from each other. The date was at Mario's, this Italian place on 5th Street that's been around forever. Red checkered tablecloths, candles and wine bottles, the whole deal. I got there 15 minutes early because I'm that guy, the one who shows up early and then sits in his car, scrolling through his phone, pretending he just arrived. Well, when I finally walked in, she was already there. That threw me. She beat me. She was sitting in a corner booth, and when she looked up and smiled, my stomach did this weird flip thing I hadn't felt since high school. Her pictures didn't lie, which honestly was a relief, because you never know these days. But they also didn't quite capture how her eyes crinkled when she smiled, or how she tucked her dark hair behind her ear when she was nervous. "Hey," I said, sliding into the booth across from her. Real smooth, Jake. Real articulate. "Hey yourself." She was already sipping water, and I noticed her nails were painted this deep red color. She caught me looking. "Long shift yesterday. Figured I'd treat myself to a manicure this morning." "They look nice." I grabbed my own water glass, just to have something to do with my hands. Net, the waiter came over, some older guy named Sal, who looked like he'd been working there since the place opened. We ordered drinks, a beer for me, white wine for her, and then we both kind of laughed at the same time because we reached for our menus together. "You first," I said. "No, you. I already looked at it while I was waiting." "You know what you want already?" "Maybe, but I'm one of those people who looks at the menu 50 times and still asks the waiter what's good." I laughed, and just like that, the nervous energy started to ease up. We talked about everything. She told me about her last shift, this patient who kept insisting his hiccups were a sign of alien possession. I told her about my job doing freelance graphic design, how I mostly worked from home in sweatpants, but had to actually put on real clothes for client meetings. No, she thought that was hilarious. "So you're telling me you could be pantsless right now and nobody would know?" she asked, her eyes dancing with this mischievous light. "I'm wearing pants, I promise." That's exactly what a pantsless person would say. The food came. Chicken parmesan for her, fettuccine alfredo for me. We shared garlic bread, and she stole a bite of my pasta without asking, which I took as a good sign. You don't steal food from someone unless you're comfortable with them. At least that's what I told myself. We talked about music. She loved old country, the kind my dad used to play on road trips. I was more into indie rock, bands nobody's heard of that play in basements and small venues downtown. We argued about whether pineapple belongs on pizza. She said yes, I said absolutely not. And we both agreed to disagree, while she insisted I was wrong. "I'm starting to think this isn't going to work out," I joked, pointing my fork at her badgatter. "The pineapple thing is a deal breaker." She raised an eyebrow. "Oh, really? That's your line?" I have standards. Clearly not very high ones if you agreed to go out with me. I almost choked on my beer. She had this way of being funny without trying too hard, like she was just naturally quick with comebacks. It was attractive. Everything about her was attractive. The way she talked with her hands, how she really listened when I spoke, instead of just waiting for her turn to talk. The little gap between her front teeth that showed when she really smiled. 2 hours went by like 20 minutes. The restaurant started to empty out. Sal came by to refill our water glasses and gave me this knowing look, like he'd seen 1,000 first dates in this booth and knew when one was going well. We ordered dessert, tiramisu, 1 plate, 2 forks. Peak romance, right? I was working up the courage to ask her if she wanted to take a walk after this, maybe grab coffee somewhere else and keep the night going. My hand was on the table, close to hers. Not touching, but close enough that I could feel the warmth of her skin. That's when her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and her whole face changed. Not bad exactly, but different. More serious. She set down her fork and took a breath. "Jake, I need to tell you something." My heart dropped. Here it comes, I thought. She has a boyfriend. She's moving to another state. She's actually an alien, and the hiccup patient was onto something. But my mind went to a dozen terrible places in half a second. She folded her hands on the table and looked right at me. Her eyes were steady, but I could see she was nervous. Really nervous. More nervous than when she'd walked in. "I've had a really great time tonight," she started. "But?" I couldn't help it. The word just came out. "No, but. I mean, maybe a but. I don't know." She closed her eyes for a second, then opened them. "I have 2 kids, a boy and a girl. Lucas is 7 and Emma's 5. Their dad's not in the picture, hasn't been for 2 years." She said it fast, like ripping off a Band-Aid. Then she just looked at me, waiting. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. My brain was trying to process what she'd just said, while also dealing with the fact that she looked absolutely terrified. Her hands were shaking slightly. If you want to leave, I get it," she continued, her voice quieter now. "A lot of guys, they hear that, and they're done. I should have told you earlier, before we met, but I liked talking to you, and I didn't want to scare you off. And now I'm sitting here thinking I should have just been honest from the start because this is worse, isn't it? This is so much worse. I'm sorry. I'm rambling." She was rambling, and I was frozen. Not because I wanted to leave, not because I was upset, but because I could see how much this moment meant to her, how many times she'd probably had this exact conversation, and how much it cost her to be this vulnerable with someone she barely knew. The thing is, my mind wasn't blank because I was freaking out. It was blank because I was trying to figure out why she thought this was bad news. "Sarah," I started, but she kept going. "I know it's a lot. I mean, I'm a package deal, right? That's what my sister always says. She tells me I need to put it in my profile, just get it out there from the start. But every time I tried to type it, it felt like I was reducing them to some kind of warning label. Like, 'Hi, I'm Sarah. Swipe left if you don't want complications.' But they're not complications. They're my whole world. And I just... Sarah." I said it firmer this time, and she stopped. Her eyes were getting glassy, and I realized she was about to cry. In the middle of Mario's. Over tiramisu. I reached across the table and took her hand. Just grabbed it. Her fingers were cold. "Can I say something now?" She nodded, biting her bottom lip. "I don't want to leave." She blinked. Once. Twice. "You don't?" "No." "Well, why would I?" "Because I just told you I have 2 kids. I heard you. Lucas is 7. Emma's 5. Their dad's an idiot for not being around." A laugh burst out of her, wet and surprised. She wiped at her eyes with her free hand. "You're serious? Do I look like I'm joking?" She studied my face like she was trying to find the catch, the moment where I'd take it back or add a but of my own. I didn't. I just sat there, holding her hand in the middle of this Italian restaurant, while Sal pretended not to watch us from behind the counter. "I've been on 4 first dates in the past year," she said quietly. 3 of them ended the second I mentioned the kids. One guy literally stood up and said he forgot he had to feed his cat. He didn't even have a cat. I checked his profile later. That guy's loss. "You're really okay with this?" I squeezed her hand. I'm really okay with this. I mean, yeah, it's new information. But Sarah, I've spent the last 3 weeks getting to know you. The you who sends me pictures of burned pizza and tells me about your patience and argues that pineapple belongs on perfectly good Italian food. That person has kids. Okay, that doesn't change the fact that I've been sitting here for 2 hours thinking this is the best date I've been on in years. She let out a shaky breath and smiled. Really smiled. The kind that showed that gap in her teeth. Well, you're kind of amazing, you know that? I'm really not. I'm just not an idiot. We sat there for a minute, just holding hands across the table like teenagers. Sal brought the check and winked at me. Actually winked. I'd never been winked at by a 60-year-old Italian waiter before, but there's a first time for everything. Outside, the air was cooler. It was mid-September, that perfect time when summer's finally letting go, but fall hasn't quite arrived. The streetlights were coming on, and 5th Street was busy with people heading to bars or walking dogs, or just existing in that easy Friday night way. So, she said, adjusting her purse on her shoulder. What now? There's a coffee shop 2 blocks from here. They're open until 11. We could walk? I'd like that. We started walking. Our hands found each other again, the fingers lacing together naturally. She fit perfectly next to me, even though she was a good 5 inches shorter. She had to look up when she talked, and I had to resist the urge to just stop in the middle of the sidewalk and kiss her. Tell me about them, I said. My kids? Yeah, if you want to. Her whole face changed when she talked about Lucas and Emma. She lit up in this way that made everything else seem dimmer by comparison. Lucas was obsessed with dinosaurs, could name every period and species, and wanted to be a paleontologist. Emma was in kindergarten and had decided she was going to be either a princess or a firefighter. She hadn't decided which yet. Maybe both. She told her teacher she was going to rescue people from towers while wearing a crown. Sarah laughed. Miss Peterson sent me a note saying Emma had very ambitious career goals. She sounds like she's got it figured out. She's something else. They both are. She paused at a crosswalk, the red hand blinking. Lucas asks me sometimes why his dad doesn't come around. Emma's young enough that she doesn't really remember him much, but Lucas does. That's the hard part. What do you tell him? The truth. That sometimes adults make choices that hurt people, but it doesn't mean he did anything wrong. That his dad has his own stuff to work through. I don't badmouth him, even though I want to sometimes. I figure they'll form their own opinions when they're older. The light changed. We crossed. You're a good mom, I said. I try. Some days I feel like I'm barely holding it together. Like this morning, Emma refused to wear anything but her Elsa costume to school. Full costume, wig and everything. I had to negotiate her down to just the dress with regular shoes. I counted it as a win. That is a win. Is it though? Absolutely. Compromise is key. We got to the coffee shop, this place called The Grind that I'd been to 100 times. They knew me there. The barista, Maya, raised her eyebrows when she saw me walk in, holding Sarah's hand. I'd told her once about my disaster dating life while waiting for a latte. She looked pleased. We got our drinks and found a small table by the window. Sarah wrapped both hands around her mug, letting the warmth seep into her palms. She'd ordered some complicated caramel thing with extra whipped cream. I got black coffee like a boring person. Can I ask you something? She said. Anything. Why are you being so cool about this? And don't just say because I'm great or whatever. I mean, really. Most guys run. I thought about it. Really thought about it. My sister's a single mom, I said finally. Her ex took off when my nephew was 2. I've watched her deal with guys who treated her like damaged goods just because she had a kid. Like her being a mom made her less, somehow. It always pissed me off. She's incredible. She's raising this amazing little human basically on her own, and these guys couldn't see past their own shallow crap. Sarah was quiet, listening. So when you told me about Lucas and Emma, I didn't think, oh no, kids. I thought about how much strength it takes to do what you do. To work full-time and raise 2 people, and still make time to go on dates with guys you meet online who might turn out to be serial killers. Are you a serial killer? Not that I know of. She laughed. Good to know. We talked until the barista started wiping down tables with purpose. Maya gave me a look that said, "We close in 10 minutes, lover boy." Outside, we stood on the sidewalk, and I knew this was it. The moment where we either said goodnight, or I asked to see her again, or she told me this was fun, but too complicated. She beat me to it. My mom watches the kids every other Saturday, she said. I'm free next weekend, if you want to do this again. I definitely want to do this again. Even knowing what you know now? I stepped closer, close enough that I could smell that perfume again, especially knowing what I know now. She tilted her face up and I kissed her. Right there on 5th Street, with people walking past, and car horns honking, and the whole messy world happening around us. It was soft and quick and perfect. When we pulled apart, she was smiling that smile again. Text me when you get home? She asked. Promise. I watched her walk to her car, a silver Honda with a car seat visible in the back window. She waved before getting in. I waved back like an idiot. I was halfway to my own car when my phone buzzed. Sarah. I almost chickened out tonight. I'm glad I didn't. Me. Me too. Sarah. Lucas wants to know if you like dinosaurs. I may have mentioned you on the drive home. My heart did that flip thing again. I stared at that text for a solid 30 seconds. Lucas wants to know if you like dinosaurs. And she'd told her son about me. On the drive home from our first date, she'd mentioned me to her 7-year-old. I don't know much about dinosaurs, but I'm a fast learner. What's his favorite? The response came quick. Sarah. Spinosaurus. He'll talk your ear off about it if you let him. Me. Consider my ear warned and ready. Sarah. You're really something, Jake. Me. Get home safe. Text me when you're there. Sarah. Deal. I drove home with the windows down, some indie band playing through my speakers, feeling like I was floating 6 inches above the car seat. When I got to my apartment, a 1-bedroom place in a complex that had seen better days, I actually looked around and thought about it differently. The 2nd bedroom I used as an office. Could that be a kid's room someday? Did I just think that? After 1 date? My phone buzzed. Sarah. Home. Kids are asleep. Mom said they were angels, which means they were terrors and she's being nice. Sounds about right, Sarah. I keep replaying tonight in my head. Me. Good replay or bad replay? Sarah. The best replay. I can't believe you didn't run. Me. I can't believe you thought I would. We texted until almost 2 in the morning. Stupid stuff. Important stuff. She sent me a picture of a dinosaur drawing Lucas had made that was hanging on their fridge. I sent her a photo of my failed attempt at graphic design for a client who wanted something with pizzazz, which apparently meant nothing and everything at once. Sarah. Get some sleep. I have an early shift tomorrow. Me. You too. Dream about something good. Sarah. I think I will. The next week crawled by. We texted constantly. Good morning messages, lunch break updates. She'd send me photos of Emma's latest princess firefighter outfit combinations. I'd send her terrible memes I found online. We talked on the phone twice, long conversations where I just listened to her voice and thought about how easy this felt. Saturday came, our second date. She'd suggested something casual, a park near her place where we could walk around the lake. When I pulled up, she was waiting on a bench wearing jeans and a green sweater that made her eyes stand out. Her hair was in a ponytail, and she had on minimal makeup. She looked beautiful. "Hi," she said, standing up when she saw me. "Hi yourself." We started walking. The park was busy with families and joggers and people walking dogs. Kids were playing on the playground in the distance, their screams and laughs carrying across the water. "So, I have a confession," she said after a few minutes. My stomach tightened. "Okay." "The kids know about you. Well, Lucas does. Emma just knows Mommy has a friend. Lucas has been asking questions all week. He wanted to know if you were going to be his new dad." I stopped walking. She stopped too, looking nervous. "What did you tell him?" "I told him that you're someone I really like spending time with, that we're getting to know each other, that it's too early to know what happens next, but that you seem like a really good person. That's a good answer." He asked if he could meet you. She said it quickly, like she was afraid of my reaction. I told him maybe, if things keep going well. I don't introduce them to people I date. I never have. But he's persistent, and he somehow found out that you work with computers, and now he thinks you're the coolest person ever. I do graphic design. It's not exactly computers. Try explaining that to a 7-year-old. We sat down on another bench facing the lake. A family of ducks was swimming near the shore, the babies following their mother in a neat little line. "How would you feel about that?" she asked. "Meeting them, not today or tomorrow, but eventually, if this keeps going the way it's going." I turned to look at her, really look at her. She had this expression on her face like she was bracing for impact, waiting for me to say it was too much, too fast. "I'd like that," I said. "Whenever you think the time is right." "I'd really like that." The relief on her face was immediate. "Yeah? Yeah. Sarah, I'm not going anywhere. I know it's only been a week since our first date. I know this is all new, and there's a lot I don't know yet. But I like you. I really like you. And Lucas and Emma are part of you. I want to know them too." She leaned her head on my shoulder. We sat there, watching the ducks while people jogged past, and the world kept spinning. "My mom wants to meet you," she said quietly. "Your mom knows about me too? I may have mentioned you once or twice, or 50 times. She thinks I'm crazy for getting excited this fast." "Are you? Excited?" She lifted her head to look at me. Terrified and excited. Both at the same time. Me too. We spent the rest of the afternoon at the park. Got ice cream from a truck. Fed the ducks, even though the sign said not to. She told me more about her life, the routines, the chaos, how Emma refused to sleep without her stuffed elephant, and Lucas had memorized every dinosaur fact book in the library. I told her about my family, my parents, who lived 2 hours north, my sister and nephew, my boring life that suddenly felt a lot less boring. When it was time to go, we stood by her car, and I didn't want the day to end. "I have next Saturday free too," she said. "If you want to, yes." She laughed. "You didn't let me finish." "Don't care. Whatever you're asking, yes." She kissed me. Longer this time. Deeper. When we pulled apart, she was smiling. "I was going to ask if you wanted to come over for dinner. Nothing fancy. Just spaghetti and probably chaos. The kids will be there." My heart was hammering. "You're sure?" "I'm sure. Lucas will probably interrogate you about dinosaurs. Emma will definitely try to get you to wear a crown. My cooking is mediocre at best. It's going to be a mess." "Sounds perfect." You say that now. I mean it. I watched her drive away again, that silver Honda with the car seats in back. And this time, instead of feeling nervous or scared or unsure, I just felt happy. Really, genuinely happy. That night, she sent me a photo. Lucas and Emma on the couch. Lucas reading to his sister from a dinosaur book. The caption read, "He's practicing what he's going to teach you. Fair warning. There will be a quiz." I looked at that photo for a long time. Two kids I'd never met, but who were already becoming part of my life. Their mom who'd been brave enough to be honest. This whole messy, complicated, beautiful thing we were building. Me, I'll study hard. Promise. Sarah, I'm really glad I met you, Jake. Me, best thing that's happened to me in a long time, Bara. Me too. The following Saturday, I showed up at her place with flowers and a dinosaur encyclopedia I'd found at a bookstore. When Lucas opened the door and saw the book, his whole face lit up. Emma was right behind him wearing a plastic crown and holding a tiny fire truck. Sarah stood in the doorway of the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel, watching me meet her kids for the first time. She was smiling that smile, the one that showed the gap in her teeth. And I thought, this is it. This is everything. I didn't know what would happen next week or next month or next year. But standing there in that doorway with a 7-year-old already pulling me toward his dinosaur collection and a 5-year-old insisting I needed a crown too, I knew one thing for certain. I was exactly where I was supposed to be.